Fair use is a concept under copyright law that allows you to use a copyrighted work without permission of the copyright owner. To understand fair use, let's go through some of the basics of the doctrine. In general, copyright applies to any original work of authorship once it's fixed. So once you write it down, once you record it, once you paint it, once you draw it, whatever you're doing. The copyright will be owned by the creator unless there's some other situation happening, like a contract signed that assigns ownership to someone else, or most typically in the employment context where the employer will usually own the copyright. The copyright owner has a number of exclusive rights in their copyrighted work. So the exclusive right to reproduce the work, to display it, to perform it, to modify it, create derivative works, distribute it, and can decide who else can actually use those rights with respect to that work. Notwithstanding those exclusive rights, fair use allows others to use that copyrighted work for things like criticism, reporting, teaching, and research. Fair use is not something that can just be declared. There are 4 factors that a judge or jury will look at to determine if a particular use of a copyrighted work is actually fair use. The first factor is the purpose and character of the use. Is it for commercial purposes or non-commercial purposes? There's a common misconception that a commercial use can never be fair use. That's not true. It's definitely less likely to be fair use if it's commercial use, but it is still possible to be fair use if it's commercial use. The second factor is the nature of the underlying copyrighted work. In general, the more creative that work is, the less likely that another person's use of it is fair use. So if something is a fictional novel, it'll be harder to use part of it and claim fair use than if it's a news article with a lot of factual information. The third factor is the amount of the underlying copyrighted work that you used. So if you are completely reproducing an entire work, it's harder to claim fair use rather than using a minimal amount to achieve your goals. In general, if you're using just the right amount as necessary to achieve whatever your fair use goals are, it's more likely to be fair use. But if you use more than that, it's less likely to be fair use. The fourth factor is the effect on the market of the copyrighted work. So if your use is negatively impacting the market for the copyrighted work, your use is less likely to be fair use. The point is that with fair use, ideally whatever you're doing is not actually impacting the market of the copyrighted work. A key thing to keep in mind is that a judge or jury will be looking at these 4 factors and determining if your use is fair use. So what it is a defense if you get sued for copyright infringement. Unfortunately, you can't just go and claim to a copyright owner that what you're doing is fair use. If they don't agree with you, they might decide to sue you. Hopefully things don't get to that point, but if they do, it's the judge and jury that decide if what you're doing is fair use.